Hi, I'm Ashy, and today I'm doing a sketchbook tour of this sketchbook, which is 100% cotton. It's larger, so it's going to take a little while, and we're going to dive in and look through all of the pages and discuss the things that I liked, the things that I found challenging. But this one was really about confidence and just building up the brushstroke, the color work, and techniques. So this was about building confidence in my art. So before we dive in, I tend to forget to ask for any sort of engagement once I get kind of on a roll into the filming. And so if at any point during this video you really like a sketch, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what your favorite sketch is. If you have any questions for me, also you can put them in the comments. If you're enjoying the video, give it a like, and then please subscribe to my channel for tons more contents. I have a bunch of other sketchbook tours, and then I have a lot of tutorial videos too, a lot of full length, some time-lapsed videos. So there's something for everyone. So please subscribe and check out the rest of my channel. So now let's dive into this sketchbook. This sketchbook is a Bong Academy watercolor sketchbook. It is 100% cotton and 300 GSM or 140 pounds. So it's nice thick paper, and it's 6.2 by 9.4 inches. And so it's a fairly large sketchbook. And I really like this sketchbook. It has excellent quality paper. I have just no fault with the paper. It's perfect. And the sketchbook has a nice padded cover to protect it. The elastic is secure to keep it closed, and it's just a great sketchbook. So I highly recommend these. Now we'll jump into it. So the inside, this isn't watercolor paper. This is just like a protective cover sheet, and I always let my kids color or draw on those first, and then the back cover also, just so that they have the experience of, they always want to sketch in my sketchbook with me, and so I always let them use these pages. And so this was my oldest daughter. She's 7 now, and she wrote "I love you, Mom," and then all the hearts and the flowers and rainbows, and it's just such a nice thing to open and look at. And then this was my other daughter, my younger one. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a dragon. She's obsessed with dragons. So then our first actual page of watercolor paper, I just did a page of brushstroke, different textures and different shapes of brushstrokes, just to practice all of those. And I made a video on all of these different brushstrokes as well, so that'll be coming out pretty soon. And then this did start in May. So I don't know why I started with Christmas stuff, but I sure did. So this is Christmas florals, and some parts of this are more successful than others. I like the ribbon and some of the shading on the pot. I don't like where the dirt is supposed to be. There's no like defined edge to it, which is okay, I guess, if it's all in shadow, but I don't love that. And then the florals, I mean, some of them are okay. That's nothing spectacular, but it was just a fun, let's test out this paper and just try a painting. And then another Christmas theme one. Again, don't know why I started Christmas in May, but that's okay. This was really fun. I just sketched out this tree and then filled it in with a bunch of different shapes, different triangles, trapezoids, whatever. And this was just done in fine liner. And then I took different colors of greens and then accented it with the pinks because they're contrasting colors, and filled them in. So I started with just one color of green, probably just like sap green or something, one that was pre-mixed, and filled in a bunch of spots with that. Then added a little bit of color to it, either blue or yellow, to shift the temperature, and filled in a bunch of spots with that. And I just kept changing the color of green, and then the same with the pink, and added those in. And that was really fun. And then I did the same thing with the browns here at the bottom. So I really enjoyed this. If you're looking for just like almost like a paint by number relaxing thing, sketch yourself out something, draw shapes, and make it like a stained glass look. It was very fun. And then we have this. And I think that my daughter drew this star first and then asked me to do other rainbow things. So that's what I did. And I mean, it was just messing around, playing. This was all done dry so that none of the sections were bleeding into each other. So I let each section dry. This, on the other hand, was done with each section being wet so that there was a bleed between the sections. So just fun little rainbows. I like this. I think that's cool. It reminds me of candy. So just fun little rainbow drawings. And then we get into this, which was a practice for a landscape that I wanted to do. So I was just working on the composition and making sure that I liked the color choices and everything. And this is a completed painting now, and I have a tutorial for it on my channel. So I'll link that below. Anything that has a tutorial associated with it, I'll link down below. But yeah, so it's really nice to practice paintings on this paper because, again, it's nice and thick, it's heavy weight, and it's 100% cotton. So you're gonna get those nice bleeds and really be able to test it out. Now, this was super quick. I didn't wait for things to dry. It's messy, but you're still gonna get that same feel as if that's if you're finished painting, you're gonna use 100% watercolor, 100% cotton watercolor paper. So I really like that about this. Now I'm gonna turn it over because I like to work on the right side of my sketchbook. I don't like to work on the left side. So I often paint things upside down in the sketchbook. And this was another completed painting that I was just working on textures and composition. And then like here, I wanted to work and make sure I knew how to get the shading that I wanted it to look like. So this was fun. And again, it's a finished painting now, so I'll link it. This one was one that was actually based off of a prompt that my daughter was going to do. So a local museum here, or I think it's a museum, or art society something, was doing a contest for kids to paint local flora and fauna. So we're in North Texas, and we have a ton of different wildflowers and butterflies. So we're actually in the monarch migration path, that kind of thing. So I went ahead and did a sketch based on that prompt as well. Now, I sketched this early, like this is page 5, right? But I didn't come back and paint it. This was one of the last paintings that I did in this sketchbook. And I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't want to paint it for some reason. I don't know why. But then once I actually did paint it, I'm really happy with the result. I really like it. I like the granulation in the greens. I like this like yellow tinged where the sun's hitting it. And I like the looseness of the painting on the florals. So I'm really happy with it. But I do like that about sketchbooks is if you don't feel like painting, just don't. Draw it and then move on. You can always come back and finish it later, or you don't even have to come back and finish it. It's your sketchbook. Do what you want. It can just be a sketch, right? So that was fun. But also, it gave me something to do. I did this painting, not the sketch. I did the painting while my kids were playing at Chick-fil-A, where they just love to go in the play place and play, like a lot of kids. And I sit there at the table outside after we've eaten and I paint while they're playing, and it passes the time for me, lets them play longer because I don't get impatient with it. And so it's just a fun thing to do to fill the time. And I just take this very simple palette. Okay, this is a travel palette that I got in full disclosure off Temu, and this can hold water, or sometimes I have a jar so that I can close it, that I fill with water, and then I can empty it when I get home so that I don't have to worry about going to the bathroom and find a place to empty it or dumping it. If I'm outside, I just dump it in the bushes because the paint water is good for plants. But a lot of times I'll take my jar and close it and empty it at home. But this palette is very simple. It has the mixing wells or mixing spaces there. And then I just have it filled with my Daniel Smith split primary set. So I just have 6 colors. It could hold a lot more. It can actually hold a ton. These are not full like half pans or quarter pans. They're very shallow, but they hold plenty of paint. I don't refill this that often, and I paint in my sketchbook pretty often, and it holds a lot of paint, so I don't worry about it. And I also don't worry about it getting messy. It's easy enough to clean up if I need a pure color. But yeah, so that's what I take, and I just keep this in my purse all the time. And then I just keep a pencil, just a basic Bic mechanical pencil, And then I have these travel brushes. Again, this is off Temu. I do not know the brands of these. This one I purchased. This one I didn't even purchase. My mom bought these for me and I don't know the brand, but they're really nice. And there's 3 different sizes, a 4, an 8, and a 12. They're all rounds. They have a little hole in the bottom so that they dry out and you don't have issues with water staying in the brushes or the ferrule. And the attachment is threaded, and I have never had a problem with it cross threading, which I know can be a problem with cheaper ones, but this one has never cross threaded. It's very stable and it holds a good amount of water, and I'm very pleased with these brushes. My mom did great. I don't know what brand they are. Sorry. Maybe I'll try to ask her and then I can put the brand down in the description if I can figure out what brand they are, but they're really nice. And so that's basically my sketching kit. And that makes it easy to sketch on the go. And then we have this one, which is a master study from Monet. So this is Cliff Walk at Pourville, I think is the name of the painting. And I wanted to capture the loose impressionistic style, but bump up the saturation of the colors. So I went with much more vibrant purples and pinks and oranges in this to really bump it up. And I'm super happy with how this looks. I do have a video coming out on this. So again, I can't remember if it's already out or if it's coming out, but I'll put it in the link. I'll put the link in the description either way. So once it's out, you'll know. But if you subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell, you'll get notified anytime a video comes out. So you'll never miss things like that. So do that. Okay. This one, I used liquid watercolors. I got this Dr. P.H. Martin Hydrus Fine Watercolor. It's blue aqua. And I just wanted to test it out because it's just beautiful, and I loved looking at it like this. That color is so nice, but I wanted to see what it looked like sheared out. So I decided to do a monochromatic floral piece with just working on going from super light value to the most saturated dark value. So this is 100% this blue aqua watercolor, liquid watercolor. And you can see the variety from the very sheer to the very deep, almost, I mean, it could pass as black for the highest concentrated form. And I thought that was really fun. Now this definitely stains. It reacts a little bit differently than traditional watercolor. It seems like it stains more than traditional watercolor, but it was really fun to play with. I'd never played with liquid watercolors before. So, and I really like how the florals turned out. I like the composition, and this was just playing. So I thought that was really fun. This one here, this one is a mess, but it started out as drawing based off a reference photo from Pinterest that is a bunch of different, what is this flower? Dahlias. And I was trying to draw the dahlias very big. So I wanted the petals to be big, even on the center. I wanted it to be really big, like zoomed in, and I just failed completely and drew small petals. And I don't know why I do that, but so I drew like this one and maybe a couple of these little ones. And then I got super annoyed with it because I don't like drawing small detailed stuff like that. It's not fun for me. So I quit and I didn't do anything with this page for a while. I did a bunch of other pages. Finally, I was at work one day on lunch and I'm like, I have to do something with this page. And I was sitting at the desk and there were different pens in different colors and highlighters. So I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna take pens and start drawing. And I did different types of flowers so that they had bigger petals, not as detailed and small. And then I just started throwing paint on some of them. And then some of them I didn't put paint on. And then I drew some leaves outside on the edge. And overall, that made it much more fun to play with. I still don't like this page, but it was a lot more fun once I decided to just let go and just impulsively add things instead of trying to follow these actual floral shapes very specifically. I just went for it and did random things. That made it a lot more fun. This page I did while I was watching my daughter's swim practice. So both of my kids did swim lessons this summer, so I was there for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, 3 times a week-ish. It was flexible. It was my neighbor who now moved, but anyway, long story. But fairly flexible times, but I just sat on her beautiful enclosed, screened-in porch. So beautiful. But I sat there and drew her pool. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. I really like the perspective. I love the bubbling water here in the hot tub. I think that that turned out really good. And I just used negative painting. I just preserved that white space. I didn't go back in with white ink or any sort of white medium to capture that. That was all negative painting. So I was really proud of that. And I love these leaves. Probably the only part that I don't love is how like greenish yellow these stones are on this waterfall area. They don't look like that in real life. But other than that, I'm really happy with this painting. And it kept me engaged and busy during their swim lessons to where I was watching the pool, I was seeing them, but I wasn't interfering. And if you're a parent, you know sometimes that can be hard. This page, gotta make sure it's in frame. This page I love. So my daughter, she was 6 at the time and she climbs the rope at gymnastics. And this rope is 30 feet tall. It's super tall and she climbed up the whole thing and I was so proud and I was cheering so hard. And so that's my proud mom moment. But you can't really tell that the rope's that tall because I messed up on the perspective a little bit because she's, 4 feet. So it looks like maybe 4, 8, 12, maybe 12, 14 feet, but it's really more like 30. But I really love this drawing, even though it didn't go as planned. If you see down here, the rope is wider and up here it's a lot thinner. So I was trying to make it look like big and heavy on the bottom and then getting smaller toward the top so that you could tell that she was really high. And so I was gonna make this one a lot smaller than this one. And I just kind of failed at that, but I still really love it. I love the pit blocks down here. So those are the foam blocks that they fall into if they have to fall. And I love how I got these ones like nice and detailed and then they wash out and just have some impressionistic and some splashy ones. And then I love the shadowing on the rope and then the figures. I'm super happy with all of these figures. So I was able to capture different postures of her climbing the rope. So the first part she does like a pike climb, so it's pretty much all upper body, and then she can transition and use her feet. And I just really love the postures, the body. I love her hair. So happy, and her reaching for that bell when she got to the top. So that page I was really happy with, and I like using the 2-page spread on this one. And I do like this white space over here too. I don't know, it's just a cool sketch for me. This was a trip that my husband and I took to Colorado over the summer with friends. And so this was just on the plane, the view out the window. Clouds are hard. I'm not great at clouds, but this was a really fun way to pass the time on the plane. And I love the granulation here. That's ultramarine that is doing that mixed with, I don't remember, but this was all from my Daniel Smith palette. So it's gotta be something in there, but I really love that granulation there. And then I just wrote, when we went on the trip here. And then this was kind of a compilation of the couple of, I think we were only there for 2 days with the friends, basically 2.5. So compilation of those days. So this is from the Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park, which is actually a amusement park that's up on top of this hill, and rides actually go out over the edge of the cliff. So you can tell that here that this goes down. That's literally hanging over a cliff, which is so cool. And then there's a ride inside this building. I just like this building a lot because of the colors and the design on it and the roof. So I decided to sketch that one to capture that memory of the amusement park. And then I sketched all 6 of us that went on the trip, just at different times, different days. Whenever I had time, I captured part or all of one of us. And we sat around in this courtyard area in the evenings, sometimes in the mornings too, but in the evenings to just hang out, and we have our drinks there and just chat and hang out. And so I sketched each of us, and this was at dinner. I had started drawing her drink. I was gonna draw more, but then the food came and I wanted to eat it because it looked really good. So that's all I got drawn at that one. And then later, to make that not just be like a random Natalie's drink, like she's the only one that drank, I decided to sketch my margarita as well and fill in this open space here with something. And so that was a good kind of filler option. And after I'd sketched in some of it, I wanted to add the background, and I decided that I would do the view of Hotel Colorado from the courtyard. So I put in these archways and columns, and I really love how that turned out to just frame it and kind of add a little bit more color and meat to the spread versus having it just be all white in the background. So I was really happy with how that turned out. And then over here, I had an empty space. So I went ahead and drew one of the chairs from the hotel rooms that we spent most of our time. We sat outside, but one of the nights we went back up into one of the hotel rooms and stayed up, way too late for how old we are, but that's okay. And so this was just a really fun way. A lot of this I just sketched with my pencil while we were sitting around, and then went back and painted later. Like, I get up earlier than most people, so I'd go sit outside and work on painting pieces of it when I was up and nobody else was. And then some of it I did paint after we got home, but I had all the sketching already done. And it was just a fun way to fill the time and just be present with my friends while still doing something that I love to do. So this was kind of my version of travel sketching. And then our flight got canceled. So we had to stay another night, just me and my husband. Everyone else was driving places, but we had to stay another night. And so we got a hotel room along the river, and we took a walk in the evening and walked down to this area of the river. And I really liked the panoramic view of it. So I sketched it, and then I actually painted this on the flight back home. So again, it was a good way to fill that time on the flight. This page was testing colors for a completed painting. So I'd gotten a frame from a thrift store that had a double matte in it. And I wanted the painting that I was gonna put in it to complement or to be complemented by the matte colors. So I was just testing color combinations and trying to match the colors in the matte. So I did a limited palette, ultramarine, burnt sienna, and alizarin crimson. And this was my little test mixtures. And then I did some testing to make sure that it would work for my sky, my rocks, the water, everything. And so that was a fun little experiment with the colors. And I really like how this page looks, even though it's just like swatching and testing. This page is obviously practicing figures. I was watching a video on my phone, and I sat down at my table and I was like, I'm gonna paint something. And then kind of what I settled on was I was gonna paint Jordan Peterson because that was the video that I watched. So I sketched him and painted him, and I actually kind of like that sketch. And then I was like, well, I don't feel like doing the person he was interviewing, so I'm just gonna start sketching my family. So I did him based on a video that I was watching, and then I did these three based on photographs. And then later on, I was filling up the page some more, and we were at a pool party, and I don't really like to swim. And since there were enough people swimming, I didn't have to swim with my kids. And so I just sketched while they were swimming. And so I did a couple of my husband, and then another kid that was there, that's my daughter, and then the family dog of the house that we were at. And I really like this page. Some of the sketches are more successful than others, just objectively, but I really overall like this page. I like the looseness of it, and I really like sketching with this fine liner. So I got this fine liner. I cannot find the color on here. I don't see where it says the color. I could just be blind, but it's like a reddish brown micron pen. It's 0.5. Or it says 5, but it's actually 0.45 millimeter. Anyway, just fun fact. But I really like it. I'll definitely be purchasing this one again. I love sketching with this pen, starting with this. Instead of using a black fine liner, this it's psychological, 100% psychological, but it doesn't feel as permanent, even though it's permanent. And it doesn't feel like as big of a deal if I make a mistake with this color versus with black. And I don't know why, because it's exactly the same. It's permanent, but it doesn't feel as heavy or as, I don't know, I wouldn't say necessarily like that I get anxiety sketching with a black pen, but this definitely feels like freer using this. So recommend trying it. They have them open stock at Jerry's Artorama. That's where I got it. I got it, I think around the 4th of July when they were having their big sale. I got this and I just picked it up open stock. So really like it. Definitely will be purchasing that color again. But yeah, so this page was all just figure sketching practice. And then I kept up with that here. So again, using that same ink. And these are both my younger daughter. You know, there's parts of them that I like. Like, I think this is really cute. It doesn't really look like her, but it's cute. This one, her nose looks a little funny. Her face is a little bit the wrong shape, but it's okay. And I definitely find it harder to draw people that I know, and especially that I know and love, and see all the time, because you can really tell if it's not a likeness. And then you feel like it looks bad. Even if it's not necessarily bad, it doesn't look like them. So it's not as successful. I find it a lot easier to draw people off of like just reference photos off Pinterest or strangers that I don't know. So, but yeah, still fun to do. And I keep trying because I really want to be able to draw my kids and my husband and just be able to bust those out. So I'll keep trying. This was again at gymnastics, so that's my daughter's coach. I really like parts of it. Like, I love the texture on her hair, how it goes from like more textured and detailed to this washy look. I think that's pretty cool. And then I like the pose of my daughter here on the bar. I like her hands and her feet, even though they're not detailed. Her coach's arm looks a little funky, but overall I actually really like that sketch. This was another testing colors and kind of techniques for some paintings that I was going to finish, or that I was going to do later. And I really, again, I like these pages where it's just like little snippets of testing. It's very colorful and vibrant and just a fun way to fill a sketchbook. This is another kind of test page. So I painted a card for my daughter for her birthday. She loves axolotls. So this was me testing how to paint an axolotl. They're weird little salamander animals and they're just kind of blobby, but I really wanted to get one that looked cute. So I was testing different colors and different shapes and different poses. One thing that when I showed this page to my daughter after her birthday that she pointed out is it looks like this one here is all one that's really long in the body, which I think is funny because I was just, drawing and then I tuck things in around trying to work on different parts. So like working on the shading on the body, this was trying to get the face. And so I didn't care that I didn't draw the rest of it, but she said that that looked like one big long one, which is funny. And then I put the axolotl in a scene to see if I'd like that better. And I definitely did not like that. I, for some reason, just am terrible at trying. I've never succeeded at like an underwater scene like this with coral and seaweed and all of that. I can do like basic water, like open water with something in the middle, but trying to get these washy effects of the coral, I can never get it to look right. And then I try to go back in and add stuff over to add detail, and then it just looks muddy and messy because I'm layering orange and pink over green and blue, which I know is gonna turn brown. but it never looks good. So I don't love that. I do really like some of the textures that I got on the seaweed with the dry brushing and then like the twisting of the brush. So that was fun, like rolling the brush between my fingers. But overall, you know, I don't love this painting in general, but I do like the seaweed. And then here's another version of me trying to do underwater because, you know, I thought I'd learn something and clearly I didn't. So it's still all muddy down here, but that's okay. It was fun anyway. I love just splashing the color around with all these different blues and greens. So I literally just took all of the blues and greens in my palette, trying to force that granulation using a ton of water. So I do like the background. And then I decided to put some fish and jellyfish in it. The jellyfish I don't mind. They're transparent, but the rest is kind of, you know, great. We'll say it was fun. This was more sketching at my daughter's gymnastics. So we have gymnastics 2 days a week. We were at a point where it was 2 hours each night. Now I've gotten the classes to line up better. So we have 2 hours one night and 1 hour another night, but it's a lot of time. And so instead of just mindlessly scrolling on my phone, I like to sketch or paint while I'm there. So this is a great way to practice live figure sketching. And I just look at my kids and draw them. So again, some of these are more successful than others. Like this one, I do not like. Her posture is terrible. I don't like her face. This one's not a good drawing. And also she wouldn't be able to stand like that. Just biomechanics wise, terrible. She would fall over. But then like this one, I really like. Now, she's probably not actually that buff in real life, but I love the shading and drawing to get the definition on the muscles. And then the proportions of this, I was very happy with. And I love the feet. I actually like drawing hands and feet. Sometimes I'm not as successful, but I do like drawing them. Like here, they don't look bad. They're just gigantic. So they're really exaggerated. Same with this one. I really like this one though, even though her hands are gigantic. I think it's funny that they're exaggerated like that. So I like this one, and this one I like a lot. The other ones I don't like as much, but they're okay. Like this one's okay. I like that one okay. This one I like okay. Her head's too big. I wish the head wasn't quite as big. But yeah, so it's just a fun way to fill the time while we're at gymnastics. And so that's, again, the next page. So this one, I didn't use reference photos or anything. What I used was just my knowledge of anatomy and biomechanics. As a physical therapist, I need to remember that I know how bodies look and how they're balanced in different positions. And I can use that to my advantage when I'm sketching. I know how muscles are shaped and how, legs and arms look based on that musculature. So I used that to draw the progression of the cartwheel step in. So that's what this skill is called. And so I think I started in the middle and then worked my way out. I don't know for sure though, I can't remember. But I love this. I was so happy with this, and I decided that I liked the simplicity of just keeping it with the sketch. Now I went straight in with ink with this. I didn't do pencil sketching, so it's a sketchbook. So if it fails, it fails. But I wanted to try to push myself to just go straight in with ink, and I was very happy. I think that I drew this first, her on the rope, because I was gonna do all of the different stations, but then I changed my mind. So I like this though. I think it kind of gives it like an anchor point here on the left, and then it goes into this. So I love this page. It's one of my favorites. Now here we have an evening that I got home from work, and I put the kids to bed and I just wanted to paint. So I just painted what was on my desk. So I have this. So I also do glass blowing, and this is a objectively failure of a cup because it just got all messed up when I tried to break it off. But I love this, and this is now my salt container that's on my desk. So that was sitting on the desk, and I decided to paint it. And then same with my water jar. This does have dirty water in it, but I have my water jars that I've made at glass blowing, and I have a whole bunch of them, but this was the one that I decided to paint. And so I just set it there and I painted it. And so that was fun. I like this one better. I like the lip here where I got some of the reflection with the light areas and the shadow with the dark areas. I think that was a little bit more successful, but this one you can tell the shape of it, and you know, it's washy and colorful, so it was fun. This was that same night. I actually dated these ones, and this was based off of a Van Gogh painting. And so I have it pulled up here. So it was wheat field with cypress, and I decided to use that as inspiration for my painting here. And it doesn't look, I mean, I wasn't trying to go like stroke for stroke and capture all of the details. This was just, again, evening, put the kids to bed, I wanted to paint something. And this took maybe, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, but I just used the composition of Van Gogh's painting as a guideline, and then tried to get some of the swirly effects, like in these trees, and then the brush strokes in whatever this bush is. And then we have another master inspired painting. So this one is actually Monet as well. And I wanted to get a vibrant Monet painting. And so this was just super bright and colorful. And I used extremely bright colors to mimic that. And again, I wasn't going for brush strokes or for that type of inspiration. Like the sky up here is all very visible brush strokes. I didn't want to try for that with watercolor. That wasn't the point. It was the color and the composition. So again, this is just a master study. And so it's fun to kind of play with those sometimes. And then here's some sketches that I did based off reference photos just from Pinterest. And I like to just pull up random figures and different poses and postures and hairstyles and all of that to just practice. And so I sketched all of these with that same reddish brown ink, and then came back and painted these two later. This one I decided to leave white so that it didn't make this page look too heavy. I just left her like that. So like this one, the sketching on the face got a little funky, but I like the painting. This one, I think it's sketched better, but like her face, the skin tone I don't like. It's a little bit too dark, layered a little bit too much on her, but I like her hair and I like the sketch of this one. This one, the sketch wasn't as good, but I like the painting better. So just always working on portraits and figures, because for me, that's one of the hardest things. So then another page, these are all based on reference photos from my kids. Obviously, these children do not look like two kids, so I didn't succeed in getting good likenesses. So these 5 are all supposed to be my older daughter. And clearly they don't all look like my older daughter, or else they would all look the same. This one's pretty good. That's my younger daughter. I find her to be a little bit easier to paint than my older daughter. I don't know why, but I do. So some of these are more successful than others, again, but it's just something that I'm constantly working on. Now this one, these two were based off of Pinterest reference photos again. So this one is pretty good. It's not my favorite, like her head, the proportions are a little bit weird, but I don't mind this one. I think it's okay. This one I'm obsessed with. This I actually came back and did later because I had a blank spot here and I knew that I wanted to do another portrait, but I wasn't feeling it for a while. So this actually might have been my very last painting of this sketchbook. And I just sat down, pulled up a picture on Pinterest, and I did not sketch. I went straight in with watercolor, and I am obsessed with this. I think that this looks fantastic. And I find it actually to be a little bit easier to just go straight in with watercolor and not try to sketch first, and I don't know why, but I find it to be easier. So I start with just a wash of the lightest color, add in shading where I know some facial features should be, and then layer up over that. And I am so happy with this one. And I love the hair too. I just, yeah. Simplicity and not overworked. Nothing looks muddy and overworked. Like here, it looks overworked and muddy, where I just tried to layer and then tried to lift and then layer and lift. And that just looks tortured, right? On this side of her face versus this looking fresh. And I used the same paints. It's not like I used different paints. It's just technique. So I was very happy with that one. Now this page I did while I was at the park with my kids. And so there was this cool tree and I decided that I just wanted to paint it really loosely. And I love this tree. I love this. This is just perfect for me. And then I was thinking about adding something on this page to kind of tie it together. But then I decided that I liked just having a few little splatters over here and leaving it white otherwise, just like the leaves were blowing across this blank area. And so I was very happy with this tree and I just left it. This was figure sketching. Our church were involved in the music, and we had a little party at our friend's house with all the music people, and they did like a jam session. And so singing and playing whatever that drum is called that you sit on. Anyway, don't know what it's called. Guitars, piano. And so I just sketched people. I was sitting against the wall on the ground while they were all playing and jamming, and I was just back there singing and sketching. And so some of these are more successful than others. This person left and never came back, so that annoyed me a little bit. Left that specific spot, didn't leave the party, but left that spot and never went back to the same spot. So then I just had to make it up, and it's not great. He's not great, his head's too big, but I do like his face, actually. I do like that, even though it doesn't really look like him. These three are a lot more successful in my opinion. This was part of the chandelier that's in that room. And so I just sketched the weird shapes of that. And I did not feel like going back and painting it. So I didn't. That's the example of sometimes you can leave things unfinished. It's your sketchbook. It's fine. This was a painting that I did for a tutorial, so that'll be coming up. And then this one I did a sketch while we were driving to dinner or something. I don't know. We were going about 45 minutes away. So I just started sketching. I didn't know what to sketch, so I just started drawing the interior of the car. And then this is not where we live looks like at all. That's a completely imaginary landscape, but I do like it. And then I decided just to paint that and then our skin tones. And then I did decide that I wanted to add in the rear view mirror looking out the back because it felt a little bit weird having that be white. So I added that, but then I left the rest white because what are we gonna do? Just paint it all gray? The inside of the card's all gray. That's boring. So I just decided to leave it as white negative space. And I do like how that turned out. This one was a page where I was doing some swatching, just testing some colors. And so I had just random like washes of this green and of the like brown into purple. I don't know why I was doing that. I don't remember, but I decided to turn it into a landscape after. So just used that swatching page as inspiration. So. This one was also a swatching page. I'll come back to this one in a second. This was also a swatching page that was all this color, different values, and different like brush strokes with it. And so I decided again to turn it into a little landscape. And I do like that one. Now I closed this while this was still wet because I was in a hurry. I don't remember where I was, but I was in a hurry. And so I closed it while it was still wet and it left this texture all over this page. And so I was like, well, whatever, I'm just gonna sketch over it anyway. So I sketched my kids at the park and it kind of looks like little like leafy texture in the background. So I think it worked out fine. And I decided just to be very minimalistic with adding color to this sketch, just to give it some context, because it was all just lines. I don't know, drawing playground equipment, like this was all just wooden. It's called Castle Park, and it's all wooden play equipment. And it was just a bunch of lines when it was just pencil. And so I just decided to add enough to give it that little bit of context. So I painted in this, which was really a focal point with that little, I don't know, I'm gonna call it a monster. I don't know. And then I liked the pop of yellow here for this. I don't even think that was yellow in real life. I truly can't remember. I don't remember what color this was, but I decided to paint it yellow. And then I drew each of my kids playing on the equipment. And then I decided to throw in a little bird here because there were a bunch of these little birds running around. So I sketched him real quick. These are some more tutorials that'll be coming up. These were actually testing for cards. And then these were 2 more of my older daughter practicing portraits again. So again, we have overworked a little bit too much, too many brush strokes there, and she looks, I use the word tortured. That's the best word that I can come up with. Also, her head's a little bit too big, I feel like, for her body, but I do like her dress. I like the skin tone on her arms a lot, and I like her hair in this one. It's just, that's sad. It's just her face that I don't love. And mostly it's her like upper half of her face. The lower half's not too bad, but that one's okay. This one is also okay. It doesn't really look like her, but at least I like the portrait. And I like the vibrant. She had a lei on that day and she put it on as a headband. So that was funny. This I got impatient and didn't feel like waiting for this to dry before writing the letters. So that's why it's all spidery there. Spider webby, but that's okay. I think it doesn't look bad. It's kind of cool looking. So that one's a little bit better, even though it doesn't look like her. I'm more happy with that one. And then here are 2 just landscape kind of practice, getting this golden hour effect on landscapes. Not the most successful on that. Like I want to work on it some more. They look a little bit, I don't know, I'm not gonna say simplistic because it doesn't look simplistic, but this one does a little bit maybe, but I don't know. There's something that I don't love about them, but there's other things that I really love. Like I love the golden edges and the texture on these bushes. The stone bridge could use a little bit more work, I think. But overall, this was just a fun painting. I did this at gymnastics. If you're catching a theme, I paint on my lunch breaks and at gymnastics quite a bit. So that one I did there. This one I also did at gymnastics, I think the next day. So this was Tuesday, this was Thursday, I think. And I really like this one overall. I think it could be a little bit more interesting in the foreground probably, or maybe force it to make it look like this is more in the distance, like add more layers of hills. I don't know, something to make it more interesting. But I like the sky. I actually like these cauliflowers here. I'm positive it wasn't on purpose, but I like it. And then I like the shadows coming off of the stones onto the ground and the shading on the stones themselves. Also, I just really love stone circles. There's something that feels very like otherworldly about them, kind of mythological or fantasy. So I like stone circles. I think they're cool. And then the last page, that's actually watercolor paper, I painted a view from work on my lunch break. There, at one of the places where I work, there's a rooftop little sitting area. I don't know what it's called. Balcony, I guess. Anyway, but they have tables and chairs out there. And I painted the view looking, I don't know, east, southeast, one of the directions off of the building. And there was a water tower in the distance, and then just kind of different layers of the foliage and landscape. So we have kind of a field here bordered by bushes, and then it gets more washy and it's more just trees. And this was a neighborhood, so I put some of these gray things to kind of look like rooftops. It doesn't look like rooftops, but that's okay. And then I just let it all kind of bleed wet and wet in the background. I wanted to get some soft clouds, and I was really happy with how this turned out, and it was a nice way to pass my lunch break. And then we have 2 more dragons. This one my daughter and I worked on together. So I drew the wings. I think she drew the rest. I think I just drew the wings because she asked me to. And I really think it's funny. I like the claws here. I think, you know, she's getting to be a pretty good drawer. She's only 5, so that's pretty good for a 5-year-old. And then here's another one that she drew. I don't know why it has so many legs, but she's obsessed with dragons. And so we'll see what she ends up liking as she gets older, but I think it's very fun that she loves to draw with me. And there's the end of my sketchbook. Thank you so much for watching. I know that this was a longer one. I hope you enjoyed it. It's always fun for me to look at other people's practice and sketchbooks and see how they're using them. So I hope that you enjoyed it as well. Please, again, let me know in the comments if you did enjoy it, what your favorite piece was, what your favorite sketch was in the sketchbook, what you're working on in your sketchbook, different practices that you're having. I'd love to just start a conversation in the comments. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.